I first was recommended to Pakara by a friend because I was going through some intestinal issues and some inflammatory issues. And she worked with me and we really got everything under control. And I was seeing her about once a week pretty consistently. And I was seeing massive results and I was feeling better. I was able to eat food again that I hadn't been able to eat. I had such great results with that that I actually had her work with my father, who had stage 5 psoriatic arthritis, who was in really bad shape, and actually to the point where his fingers were curling. He was having a difficult time walking. And she did one session with him and also gave him a complete overhaul on his diet. And since then, he has really credited her, saying what she gave me in that session and with the diet changes has really given me my life back. I don't have any more of the kind of issues I was dealing with. He can walk now normally. So I really knew that she was special, and I knew that what she was doing really worked with me on a deep level. And I was so able to share that with a family member, which meant a lot to me. Then I went on a 2-month trip away, and I was traveling a lot. I was traveling to several places and ultimately ended up abroad. And I was in Greece. And while I was in Greece, I got a really severe heat stroke or something along those lines, where I was sleeping for 23, 24 hours a day. I couldn't break my fever. That I was traveling with were covering me with like towels covered in ice to try to bring my fever down. And this went on for days and days. I couldn't eat anything. At most, I was eating a little bit of yogurt or, watermelon gelato, but I really was sick. I was spending a lot of time just trying to be in the ocean and cool my body down. I ended up flying back and seeing Pakara pretty immediately after I got back. I didn't think I was even necessarily going to be okay on the flight, but of course the flight dehydrated me even further. So by the time I came to Pakara, I was really in quite bad shape. And I know most people's instinct is to go immediately to their medical doctor. And I had scheduled to see my medical doctor as well, but I just really had the feeling that Pakara needed to be my first stop. And I went to see her, and she laid me down on the table and she checked my pulses. And immediately she told me that my body was going through an experience almost as if my body thought I was drowning. My body was shutting down as if it thought I was dying. And so she said, I can really help you and treat this. Are you ready for it? And I said, yes, absolutely. And she gave me a treatment that there was one particular needle that when she gave it to me, I literally felt like air come back in my lungs. It was almost the feeling of having been underwater and then emerging from the top of the water. And I can't really describe it. It's like really hard to describe it. Physically, what happened is I got a rush of energy in my body. It was almost like I just had, 5 cups of coffee. And all of a sudden I felt awake and I felt energy, and I hadn't felt that in weeks. I'd literally been sleeping 23 hours a day for weeks. And then psychologically and energetically, I really felt like I was coming up for air, and like I could see clearly and I could hear clearly, and my senses were sharper. And I couldn't describe the major impact of what that moment was. But ever since then, every time something has come up, and I've had various things come up. At one point, I had a hip impingement injury, and I've had like some emotional pain come up in my life. And every single time something's come up, my instinct has always told me to go back to Bakara. And within one session, 2 sessions, there's always been an ability to get really to the heart of what's going on. And I've seen more changes in my work with her than I've seen in any of the other modalities, health-wise, that I've incorporated into my life. So she's become someone that I see very regularly just for upkeep and just to keep the conversation with my body going. And for me, it's the most important healing work I've ever done. So I've had a lot of spiritual practice in my life. I am a yoga teacher, and I've spent a lot of my life working with meditation and a lot of different modalities in terms of healing and spirituality. And I found that what's really unique about Pakara is that she has a lot of wisdom about Chinese medicine and about acupuncture. And so she's really bringing those tools to the table, but also her intuition and the spiritual work that she's able to bring to it. Specifically, something we've been working together with a lot lately is after she's having the needles in me on the table, she's been doing some Sufi chants and some chanting going along with the treatment. And that for me has been really transformative because there's a real vibrational effect of what she's doing and the words that she's saying and the chants that she's doing that for me really help the energy move in a really powerful way. And I've never seen anyone incorporate the two before, so that's been really profound for me. And also something that's really helpful for me is Pakara is not the kind of person who will just put needles in you and then leave the room. When she's putting a specific needle in a specific place, she's explaining to me, for example, there's one needle that she will sometimes put in the leg, and she'll say, this represents the last leg of the journey. So when people would go to war and they had to get just that little extra boost of energy to get to where they needed to go, this is a place from which we can get that energy to draw that strength for the last leg of the journey. So she's really amazing at explaining to me the spiritual and energetic behind how the medicine is working. So often when she's talking to me about those kinds of things, I can relate it to how my heart wants to open or how there's something emotionally going on inside of me that, oh, I didn't realize that was connected. I thought I just had a sniffly nose. I didn't know it was connected to this conversation I might have had with someone the other day. So she can really help me integrate how it's a whole body, whole life, holistic approach to my health, and how I can also be co-creating with her the experience of my healing in that way. And I really appreciate with her that she really takes the time to check in with me before we even get on the table of what's going on, how are you feeling, what's moving in your life. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be something physical. It could be something emotional, it could be something psychological, it could be something mental, and it all has a relationship. And so I like that she has such a whole approach to the healing, that we're not just putting a Band-Aid on something, we're actually looking at the root causes. We're looking at how we can give you relief in this moment, but we're also looking at what we can use to facilitate healing moving forward so that you can deepen your relationship to whatever this thing is in your body that's coming up to be healed. I
Yeah.
love Pakara so much. She's really saved my life and changed my life, and I'm so happy to support her because she's done a lot for me.